Hello and welcome to Martinis Eco and Country Bites. Today is a very humble message that we come to bring on our special guest, who is one of the founders of Save the Nullabor. I'll be introducing this lovely lady in a moment, but I'm going to read out something to you with this beautiful visual here that really embodies what I feel is so important in this world for so many of us to step up, take ownership and stewardship of this beautiful country and this beautiful planet. So, this is a quote from Bronwyn, who's going to be joining us for the interview today. I decided I needed to learn how to abseil and climb a rope to help my husband in photographing spectacular caves of Tasmania and the Nullarbor. Expansive distinctions, which is a process of realization that empowered me to what was needed in spite of my fear of heights, overcoming fears, overcoming limitations to step up for greatness and stewardship of this beautiful nation. Hi, I'm about to introduce a beautiful woman who is working very hard with her partner in life and her partner in this. Stefan, I'm going to bring now onto stage the remarkable and incredible soul, Bronwyn. Hello, Bronwyn. Welcome to Martini's Eco Country Bites.
Hello, Martine. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I think that that introduction really is very poignant about the embodiment of the kind of energy that you and Stefan have in, I guess, your stewardship and bringing into light how precious and beautiful this area of Australia is in the Nullarbor Plain and how incredibly unique it is. Would you like to maybe introduce yourself and Stefan and the work you've been doing, just for those who may not be aware of the work that's amazing what you do for Save the Nullarbor?
Thank you. So Stefan's been going out to Nullarbor for 40 years as a cave diver and a caver and a scientist, subterranean ecologist. Stefan and I have been married 4 years, and I started going out to the Nullarbor with him. We had done some aerial drone footage, and he had diving footage. But in 2023, we found out about this colossal, gargantuan proposal for the Nullarbor. And initially, Stefan just said, we just got to get out there and get photos of it so that people will have a before and after. And we went out and actually spent 9 weeks filming every day. And we just got to there can't be a before and after. The Nullabor's too precious. We need to really bring these visual images back to the world for people to really realise what's here, how beautiful it is, how fragile it is, and to preserve it and protect it.
Yeah, definitely protect it, because I know that the fragility of that area, just from my own research and having talked about the Nullarbor with Daryl Hockey previously, and now some of the discussions we've had leading up to this interview. You did a really beautiful piece here. I'm just going to quickly show that so people can go and research this themselves. There was an article or a really wonderful presentation on the ABC done with yourself and Stefan.
Yes. So that was actually a 7:30 report, right at almost 18 months ago.
Wonderful.
Which used all of our footage to showcase the Nullarbor.
Maybe we should give a really good insight. I'm going to bring through some photographs here, and maybe we can talk as we're showing some visuals for a lot of the people. Just how incredible this area is. The essence of Australia is something that's unique worldwide. I don't think there's anywhere like it. It's something that I truly love and have grown to love on a deeper level as I've traveled the world and obviously matured some, I'm hoping. And my appreciation for how wild this country is, how incredibly unique the animals, the landscape, and it really challenges a lot of people that come here that don't know what to expect because they think this nation is much smaller than it is. And then when they get to see the vastness of that, so perhaps we could have a chat about the fact that there are so many entrances to this area that we're talking about, Bronwyn.
Yeah. So actually on the screen now you have the
Sorry,
the
my
kestrels.
apologies.
Yeah,
Yep.
the cryptogam crust. That's actually the crust that is on the surface of the Nullabor, and it's very, very thin, like millimeters thin, and it's very easily broken. So that's very special and unique, and a major consideration for why it needs to be left. That being destroyed then means soils are eroded really easily, and they go into the subsurface, the cave system.
So is this crust a specific mineral deposit, or is it something that's formed over time and makes this area? This is the zone that still keeps it also quite fertile, or is this something that's more on a geological level? It protects the under subterranean cave systems.
So it's holding everything together, even though it's
Uh-huh.
very thin. It's
Yes.
actually lichen and moss and fungi, and
Wow.
so when there's no rain, it can look very very dry. But once it rains, it becomes very verdant and green, and all these different bright coloured lichens and moss suddenly become apparent. They unfurl, they become very colourful. But yeah, it's actually a crust that is holding the soil together, and even just standing on it will break the crust. If you have cars driving on it, and especially if you have cars driving when it's once it's wet, those tracks just don't disappear. It just can't recover, or it will take
Wow.
many years to recover. So that is and you can see here where cars have driven around. So this is a sinkhole, a doline, one of the caves that's very close to where this development is proposed, and quite close to the major highway that runs east to west across the Nullabor. The proposal is for a township of 8,000 people, which would be in the vicinity of this cave, and another very significant cave, Abercurry, which has the largest cavern in Australia. So that area that you're looking out to into the horizon, that would all be covered with 3,000 wind turbines, 60 million solar panels, hydrolyzer plants, and then a
Liquefied
pipeline.
green ammonia plant.
And then a pipeline that takes that ammonia down across the Hampton Escarpment through a pocket valley that would be destroyed actually to take the pipeline down into the Great Australian Bight to a marine offloading facility that they would build carved into the marine park that has just been declared. They've left a section of that not as marine park, so they can have a marine offloading facility, and there would be big tankers coming into the whale migratory pathways to take ammonia to South Korea for export.
Wow. I mean, all the details I've talked about this is very disturbing on so many areas. Like they've locked people out of this marine park, and yet they've deliberately left this area open for an industry, or if they've not taken into account or feedback from sustainable fishery licenses that have been happening in other places. So the hypocrisy, the contradiction of the decision making here is is very questionable, and it's perplexing to me.
Yes. So this photo now that you have on the screen, the whole of the Nullarbor plain is very flat. It's limestone, so the water doesn't carve rivers or valleys. It sinks into a giant aquifer, which is under the entire Nullarbor plain. But this escarpment here is, so these, there are little pocket valleys which are actually head walls of caves all along that escarpment, and their plan would be to use this pocket valley as the place where they would have access to bring the pipeline from the plain down the escarpment onto the road plain. You can see the road on the left-hand side of the picture, and then out to the left is the water of the Great Australian Bight.
Wow. And so for people that are trying to piece together what this is, essentially the thousands of cave systems that are out there are essentially like a honeycomb, that above that sits a very fragile substrate that once that is disturbed or altered or collapses, there is no way to really hold together those structures underneath, because we do know that limestone is quite fragile and is easy to break down. So that is what we're sort of looking and discussing here, because the fact that, you know, it is something that's been left and not developed at this point has maintained it in a very pristine state, and to lose that, Bronwyn, would be an absolute atrocity to the heritage listing of this place that should, I believe, be put in there. So at the moment it's not World Heritage listed.
That's correct. There was a request by the Commonwealth Government in 1992 for it to be to have a look at the Nullarbor and assess it for World Heritage criteria. And in 1992, just looking at the karst, the limestone cave systems and the karst features, which are the blowholes and the rock holes, the Doline sinkholes, they found that it met 4 of the outstanding universal values criteria. So the World Heritage Convention has 10 outstanding universal value criteria. You only need 1 to be heritage listed. There are 2 places in the world that have 7 out of 10 of those criteria. One is in China and one is Southwest Tasmania. So that report in 1992, nothing happened about it. The Western Australian side did nothing about what the report revealed. The South Australian side of the Nullarbor has been relatively protected with national park and a conservation area. And currently on the South Australian side, they are looking for World Heritage nomination of the South Australian side. But
so if that this is where it becomes a conundrum, because if the South Australian side is approved, what that would say, that would exclude it from being perhaps used for this green hub, and so that would push the hub westward just exclusively into Western Australia, because at the moment we're not even looking at having this addressed. Is that how it's looking right now, Robin?
So we just need to clarify, the proposal is only on the West Australian side of the border, and we actually heard from the CEO himself, there's no way it would go ahead on the South Australian side because the land is protected, the Nullarbor is protected. And what everyone needs, the audience needs to appreciate, is that there's this Western construct of a border through the middle. 1/3 is the South Australian state of Australia, and 2/3 is in the West Australian state of Australia. But the entirety of the Nullarbor plain is a specific region to itself, very integrated. It's the world's largest arid limestone karst. it's recognised internationally as unique, iconic. There's nowhere else like it in the world. Just because it hasn't been protected on the West Australian side, the developers and the consortium of financial backers are pushing for it to go ahead. But yeah, it's a very integrated platform, and developers can talk about putting a fence around the caves entrances, or not allowing their workers, that there'll be instant dismissal if their workers go into the caves in that area. But if you bring 8,000 people into the area, they're going to want to do something on their weekends. They'll stay away from the places they've been told they'll be instantly dismissed from, and they'll go across the border to the national parks, or to other cave national park areas that they are able to access. And the landscape is not able to sustain that level of
also, there is no management, as it seems to be. There should be a management plan for this whole area that crosses over WA and South Australian borders. And as far as I can see, if you do not have a base level of data and science that puts into place values and processes, procedures in its protection and management of biodiversity and habitats, because this is very, very unique in all of Australia. This is not found anywhere else in Australia. It's so incredible. When you don't have that in place, there is no way that you could manage that, because there isn't a framework there as it exists right now to stop people from going in and destroying these areas.
Yes. So there's no, and yeah, we need to come back to the traditional custodians who for them, country is law, and the law is through the country, and everything needs to be decided on based on what is best for the country, because country is supporting. It's how we, like, everything is interconnected, and there's an enormous cultural heritage of the Nullabor Plain. There's thousands of rock holes and blowholes across the Nullabor. They were used by the first peoples, the Mooning people, and they were used as navigation points. They were used as water holes. There are capstones next to these rock holes that were placed over them to stop the water from evaporating.
Wow.
There's this beautiful, amazing artwork in the caves.
Which is what we've got here. This seems to be,
yes.
This artwork looks actually very, very old. I'm not an expert by any means, but I have sort of looked at that, and I did study ancient art, and as well as prehistoric art and stuff. Do you know at all from any of the custodians of this land, from the Indigenous people's perspective, how important and what this signifies in their culture, and how old this artwork might be?
So I think we're looking at 40,000 to 65,000 years. I don't know specifically.
Wow.
They're the two dates. 65,000 years is the known time that Indigenous people were here. 40,000 is the date that's popping into my head, but for the artwork. But I don't
All I
know.
can say, Bronwyn, is it seems like there is a consistent lack of sense of moral and ethics standing in the way that this is seen, because we do have the EPBC Act that is completely ignored time and time again, not enforced for this. And of course, this falls under that, not only just from the perspective of World Heritage listing, but then we've got all of these incredibly rare and endemic species that probably would only be found possibly in these cave systems. So these are
Yes.
some of the photographs that were part of that segment that you did for the 7:30 report.
Yes,
I'm
and
gonna
there we have them on the gallery on our website, savethenullabor.org. There's a gallery of photos. There's also a film. Um, yes, so there's a spider that they've actually recently found in 3 or 4 different locations. The same spider. It has it's endemic to the Nullabor. It only exists in the caves, and that is actually showing that these spiders are using these tiny this connection, this perforation, to be able
mm.
to move from one cave site and be found in another cave site, the same type of spider.
So
Uh,
yeah, so this is where this, because there's so little data and information about, what's the distribution of these animals, um, where they're more prolific, where they're not, if there's variations because of the penetration of light into some cave systems. And this is where there is such a lacking of science and data that is so upsetting, because instead of investing in our own nation and protecting what is so beautiful and intrinsic to our culture and our nation, we keep investing money into other areas and industries and foreign companies and nations where we really, I feel, we're not looking after ourselves. So we also have a rare crustacean here as well that obviously would be endemic and probably rare into these cave systems as well. They're only found here.
I think this is a blind. I'm not the scientist. I think this is the blind cockroach, actually, and the
Oh, it's
spider
a
would
blind.
also be blind. They all are living under the surface. The light actually doesn't go very far in.
Mm-hmm,
There'll just be a zone just below the surface
mm-hmm.
where the um, welcome swallows and the different birds will roost. Um, but beyond that, it's very dark, and these subterranean um, creatures have adapted and
Wow.
changed to survive
Wow.
in that environment.
And of course, a lot of that is because each cave system probably would have a different salinity level, and that would have an influencing factor on what species are found there in the water system. I've got a beautiful photo here. I think this is Stefan. Stefan actually diving. Yeah.
Yes, he may actually be the photographer. He's probably behind
Yeah.
with a yeah. He's taking the footage of the diver. Yeah, so there's these amazing huge tunnels filled with water. There's the entire Nullarbor underneath is this amazing aquifer. Um, yes, so apparently that is extraordinary to see that and to realise that that is underneath. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, we need to be looking after the. It's 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 what we're not doing everywhere, which is thinking
Yeah.
that as human species, we can be that we have the right and
Mm,
we are entitled to do whatever we like, to be extractive, to dominate other
mm,
people and environments, and
mm.
um, in a way that, yeah, the Nullarbor and the what needs to be understood is this coming back to it's all interconnected, and
Yes.
if something is done over here, it's actually going to affect the entirety.
Everywhere.
Mm.
Absolutely, because the one thing is that if it's one particular area on the land, people think that they can control the dynamics of that. But when you're talking about the fluid dynamics of water systems and underwater caves that lead to the ocean, there are so much complexity involved in that. And this is where not having the science and not having all of that research that's really required. So in that, perhaps we could talk very quickly about what is the requirements for the proponents now for addressing some of these issues? Do you have some of that information about, the EPBC Act and other things?
I should just say that there is an enormous body of science and research about the Nullabor,
Okay, good.
a huge amount, and we have scientific advisors on our committee. There are people that come from Europe that are also looking at the caves on the Nullabor. So there is, and the speleologists have done a huge amount of research as well and study of, so it is enormous, but it's the tip of the iceberg for what actually is out there and what we need to know. And so yeah, the processes that are set by the government and that developers have to follow are quite prescriptive. So the developer went to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in WA, I think before Christmas, and made their referral. And yeah, there were more than 290 submissions to say this needs to be assessed at the highest level, which is fantastic. But we need to understand that whatever, we can do as many submissions as we like. The EPA will do their process, but the EPA could do their process and say, no, this should not go ahead. But if one of the politicians, one of the ministers decides that they want it to go ahead, they can overturn it. So,
that's disturbing, Bronwyn.
and
Really.
Yeah, and then on the federal level, Australia is a signatory to the United Nations Convention, UNESCO World Heritage Convention. And Article 3 of that convention says that as a signatory, we are meaning the state of Australia as a signatory state nation, we have an obligation to look out for and notice and find the places in Australia that meet those World Heritage criteria that are of outstanding universal significance for the whole of the world.
Yes.
So there's that obligation in Article 3, and Article 4 is when we as a nation, as and the federal government is out supposedly operating for all of us, the federal government then has a responsibility to look after those places until they get listed.
Yeah.
Or assessed and listed.
This is where the whole system seems to be failing, is because there is overarching value systems or agendas that are stopping all of these issues being seen for what they intrinsically are. So in that, we just brought that subject of so many scientists and research has been done in this area, which I'm glad to hear because I don't see a lot of it in Australia. So this is why I'm wondering, you mentioned someone that was from overseas had been here to research. Do you find that a lot of the research is being done by people from other nations, or is it a distribution across the board that there's some from Australia and some internationally?
No, there's a lot of Australian scientists that are researching the Nullabor. It's been going on for a long time. But, sorry, it's not a but. And there's a vast amount of areas about the Nullabor that still need to be investigated because it is this amazing integrated system. And so each scientist may specialise in a particular area.
Yes.
There's still lots of areas that can be that need to be explored to show this. Just to bring that to the surface, to have it be more transparent. But
Bronwyn, a lot of these reports or articles or scientists, are they actually on your website as well? Say the nullabor.org. Are they
Yes,
roads?
we don't
They
have
are.
a lot there. We can certainly put more there. But for example, if people go to the website, there are some
Mm-hmm.
articles there by Professor John Woodhead. He's also
Mm-hmm.
on our committee. He's done amazing work on the Nullabor. They have found these speleotherms in the caves that are, now I won't remember the numbers, so I won't say the age,
That's okay.
but they've been able to find pollen spores in the speleotherms, and from that they're able to establish what the Nullarbor used to look like at
Mm-hmm.
different periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that can inform us for the future as well as what happened in the past.
Yes.
So there's the Nullarbor is actually this incredible repository. It's an incredible library of
Yes.
cultural history, geological, like just in every facet, there is information there that is incredibly important, not just for the Indigenous Australians, for
Mm,
all Australians,
everybody.
for the whole world.
It seems to me like it really is an archive of a science database. That's how I look at it. This is the way that the natural system captures all of that information and stores it in such unique places and ways. And we've talked about the connectedness of all of these things. And so having scientists bring these real science facts and data to light so that we can better understand the processes, the cycles that we've been going through on the whole planet, but how this area has responded to all of those changes is so vital in putting perspective on what is good planning and what is good management. And that's where
Mm,
I think that a lot more people are going to be intrigued by one, this conversations that we've been having today and how to go about finding more information, but two, what other things they can do to also take a sense of responsibility in protecting this beautiful area.
mm. Yes. So we have a petition on change.org that you can access through the website, savethenullarbor.org. We had 15,000 signatures when we handed it over to Senator Nick McKim, and he tabled it in federal parliament with 17,000 signatures, and since then it's gone up to 22,000. So it's not a parliamentary petition, it's a non-conforming petition, which means it continues. It will continue until the Nullarbor is saved. And so people can sign the petition. We have the images some of the images that you've shown, we have them as posters, and they're
Yes.
downloadable from the website. We're happy for people to download them for free, use them as screensavers on their computers, or download the larger versions and actually print them and display them. That would be
Yes.
fantastic. Uh,
Beautiful.
yeah. So have a look at
So,
the website. Yeah, there's a film there. Mm,
yes. So in this conversation, this is what the photo that we started off with. So
mm.
this
Is it
to
beautiful?
me is spectacular because to me this really is quintessential Australia in the
Mm,
sense of isolated and rural communities and how much we can see connection back to creator source or whatever you believe created this universe and part of our beautiful place here in Australia and WA. Um,
yes.
what do you feel is something that is another takeaway or mention for viewers that might want to go and research something or have a better sense of what we can do? Because I know that e-petitions in Parliament are only recognised and tabled in and that kind of thing, because that's the only recognition sometimes that they would do in Parliament is to say that, e-petitions are what they'll recognise more so than change.org. So is there more that you'd like to share from any perspective that you've gone on this journey with our viewers today?
Well, my personal journey, I suppose. And this picture really is very evocative of that. So that's a myall tree, which is revered by the Mirning and the Milky Way. And so most people will have just, if they have been to the Nullabor, they will have travelled across the highway. But the sky, this 360-degree night sky, it's unpolluted with lights or sound or infrastructure. It's, that feeling of being able to be in a space where man hasn't come in and said we have to destroy this or use this for something else with no regard for the real meaning. The real meaning of the essence of who we are and how we are all connected with this.
I think that word essence is exactly what this photo captures, is the essence of this area, Australia, and our land, and how it's so incredibly beautiful and rare. There's nowhere else on the planet like it. And I think to even think about putting this at risk is not only disturbing, but it shows that many more of us need to have a sense of connection back to land, sense of connection back to this essence of silence and a rare beauty that's so hard to find in this world anymore. I think you've said that so beautifully, that it's untouched, and that we think we still have the right to come in and cause destruction. That's what disturbs me. I think that more than anything, I grew up in a place that, did have a lot of damage to the land, but there was not the light pollution, and there wasn't the smog, and there wasn't industry, and there wasn't all of these things that prevented from going out and seeing, like you said, that 360 skyscape. I would call it a
Yes,
skyscape of,
it
like,
is a skyscape.
skyscape of looking up at the stars and feeling that connection back to something that's much greater than us, that puts into perspective just how small humans are, and that we should have a greater sense of respect. I think that that's what the takeaway is.
Yes. I think we have to really rethink what we're doing. I'm currently reading Total Reset by Greg Campbell. And
I know who that is.
Right, okay. And so, that real sense of we're living in this matrix where the matrix is running us. And actually, that matrix is divisive. It's about this dominator culture, and my foundational why is equality of souls. And so, how do we come back to that? And that's what that landscape absolutely it encompasses and it engenders
It does.
in a person when you feel that.
Yes. Do you know if there's like eco tours done in a very responsible way out in that area, that people have the opportunity? Because there's a lot of people that aren't familiar with, honestly, camping rough, and don't have the skill set to really go out and do that themselves, where they could go and have this experience, but under a great sense of framework, that what they're going there to do and experience is in a healthy perspective of the way that they're treating the land. Because that's the problem. We're not wanting people to go out there and enjoy it and just run all over the place and not know what they're doing. Whereas if there's some group out there that is great at giving guidance of the boundaries that are very healthy in the way that we are treating this environment, and why it's fragile, and how to observe those things. Is there someone that does that out in that area? Do you know, Bronwyn?
Well, I think that's the opportunity, that if it's for when, I'm going to say when it's World Heritage listed, that there is a management plan. It is informed by the true original custodians who are carrying responsibility and obligation for how to look after country, and can then and that can inform then ways of bringing people from around the world and within Australia to come to country, but to experience it in a way that is respectful. It's respectful of everybody, and it's respectful of the country. So that's the opportunity, and the potential and the possibility moving forward, that I don't take my eyes off that. And I try not to sit in the energy of the extractive, dominate, money-focused, and trying to pit people against each other for money, so they override their integrity and what country's really asking of them.
Wow, I think this has just been the most beautiful discussion and conversation, and the way that we've come to this resolve of let's find a way to get that connection back, because that's definitely something that I try to embody in my life as much as possible. And I can see that we're on the same page about that, Bronwyn, which warms the cockles of my heart.
Thank you.
I think that there is a way that we can work collaboratively together to support each other and to bring to light. That's why I felt so strongly some time ago that having this discussion was vital, because there's so much lost in the comprehension of what this issue is. So I think that moving forward, I think there's a lot more discussion between us and between the greater communities here in WA and Australia. That's something that I will endeavour to help wherever I can, because the outback and rural, regional, isolated Australia and WA is something that I've committed to completely.
Thank you, Martine. It's been a delight to meet you and to resonate with the kindred soul. And we really appreciate your support and your enthusiasm and your encouragement. So and your ability to raise awareness. It's fantastic. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. And if there's any way in the future that I can support what you're doing or bring to light any new information, don't hesitate at any point to get on the phone or just send me a message and just say, look, we've got this happening. We'd like people to know about it. What's the best way that we can get this message out? And however I can support that, I certainly will. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, here it is. What another beautiful episode for me here at Edge Radio Australia and Martinis Eco Bites. Thank you, Bronwyn. Much love to you and to Stefan for your dedication, and I look forward to further dialogue about this.
Thank you, Martine. Much love to you too.